Welcome once again, friends, to the Scarlette Jade Show. It's Sunday, March the 14th, 2021, and this week we'll be discussing body issues, including body dysmorphia and so many other body issues, and how it affects so many of us in and out of the lifestyle. We'll add some real-life situations, some exercises, maybe some homework, and ways to turn around the negative thoughts so you can do better in life and in the lifestyle. Jade, I'd like you to do our opening disclaimer for our lovely viewers, please. Take it away.
Of course, madame. Here we go. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. As always, a disclaimer. The following program is for ages 18 and over. The information contained in the following video and subsequent videos is intended for informational use only. While medical advice is presented in some of these features, it is not intended to be used as actual advice and not to be used as personal medical recommendations for individual viewers. Please consult your personal physician and/or therapist before engaging in or taking any actions that may be presented herein. The following information is for, as stated, educational purposes only and not intended for use without proper training and, in many cases, supervision. Please practice any of the following techniques safely and with the principles of RAC and SSC in mind. That is, as always, risk-aware consensual kink and safe, sane consensual kink and play. The Scarlette Jade Show and its members, crew, cast, and direction is not liable for any mishaps or accidents, medical or otherwise, that may occur as a result of following examples or descriptions illustrated or presented in this program. Please seek professional medical help if you are in distress and call your local emergency services if needed. Your discretion is, as always, strongly advised.
Hello, I am Hans, and Madam Scarlette has allowed me out of my cage to read one question. So we had a question by someone in the community, and they asked, could we please cover the body issues such as prenatal versus postnatal bodies and other body issues so many of us suffer, both in and out of the community, and how to look past them and love ourselves again.
Okay, now stop talking, Hans. You're done. Go back in your cage. Okay. Today's show is a tough one where we discuss body issues, both perceived and real. One type is body dysmorphia, and according to the Mayo Clinic, body dysmorphia or disorder is a mental issue, mental health disorder, sorry, in which you can't stop thinking about one or more perceived defects or flaws in your appearance. A flaw that appears minor or can't be seen by others, but you may feel so embarrassed, ashamed, and anxious that you may avoid many social issues. Another is body image disturbance, and it's a complex and much more than I just hate or love my body. It's the dissatisfaction that can range from a little to a severe body hatred. The poor body image can be tied to self-esteem issues, depression, eating disorders, and our perception of our body plays a pivotal role in our self-esteem. Now, not just talking about these issues, but there may be people that are thin, that may be over thin, heavy, and some people maybe think, oh, I'm too thin or I'm too heavy, or other people have said horrible things to these people to cause the self-image issues. It could have been down to parental. People might have disabilities, which for yourself, you could maybe perceive that you're flawed, or other people might say horrible things, which you might be like, well, why are you talking like this? These are just a few of the minor body issues that were, well, not minor, they're major in some cases to some people, body issues that people deal with daily. And I know I've had mine, Jade, Jade has had a number, as well as Hans and other people that we know very well, and other people we don't know. So there are four aspects of body image, and it's the way you see yourself, which is perceptual, the way you feel about yourself, which is affective, the thought and belief that you feel about your body, which is cognitive, and the things you do in relation to the way you look, behavioral. So all of these things can manifest in negative self-talk, cutting, damaging yourself, bulimia, any of these other things like that, as well as just seeing yourself in a way that other people don't see you, or just not liking yourself very much. And I'll cover more about this and other issues and the ways to try to counter them a little bit, at least, after this very important story from our very own Amy Jade. Little girl, please share your story with our lovely audience.
Thank you, Madame. And I would like to thank Madame once again for allowing me the floor for a good chunk of our broadcast time. I thought I would bore you all with a fairly hard-hitting dose on gender epistemology and sociological gender theory. Just kidding. Well, sort of. There's a couple of great channels by other YouTubers I'll mention later on that deal with this and touch on sociology and gender identity far better than I ever could. But today, for a relatively on-point topic, I'd like to tell you my transition story, which is directly related to today's topic, as I mentioned, and ingrained into today's deeper subject matter. So yeah, I suppose I'm only kidding there by the first sentence, only in a sense. Today's a day of first after all. Sorry for the awkwardness, but this is a unique and different situation. I suddenly wish I had a stronger drink. As an aside, as I've done before, any clinical or professional works I cite will be noted at the end of the show and links down below for you to peruse at your leisure. I typically use, given my training, either Chicago style 12th edition or APA style citation format. Anyway, you see, this may come as a shock to at least some of you. I am transgender, trans woman. The clinical term is MTF, or male to female. Just as there are female to males out there. Goes both ways. You see, on the gender spectrum, and it is a spectrum, with one end being cis male, the other being cis female, I identify as close to a solid female marker on the spectrum as one can possibly get. I've been on HRT, or hormonal replacement therapy, for about almost 6.5 years. I've had at least 2 surgeries done, breast augmentation, the girls, and the orchiectomy. But I would never be done. There is no end to transition. It's a lifelong process. No matter the surgery is completed or the number of years in HRT, that is once again hormone replacement therapy. And orchiectomy is, of course, the medical term for the surgical removal of male testes. It is one of 2 primary surgeries for the transgender patients to complete the legal definition of gender reassignment. There is also currently a movement in many countries to outlaw the requirement to get the surgeries to be acknowledged as trans or as the gender you prefer to be identified as. But that's a whole nother issue. So I began transition in late 2014. But I knew I was wrong as far back as age 5. Now, when I say wrong, I mean, when I looked in the mirror, something fallacious and horribly evil looked back at me. I suppose evil really isn't the right word, but it's close. I knew I wasn't supposed to be a male at all. I wanted to do really horrible, life-threatening, or otherwise lethal things to my body on a continuous basis. And it graduated from just wanting to itch and scratch all over to eventually over the years wanting to take a kitchen knife and cut off certain things. Or even end it. I was not supposed to be a boy. I knew that. I grew increasingly upset, though I kept it buried inside me, like pretty much 24/7, 365. This continued until my last year of high school when I was encouraged to come out as gay. I didn't, but everyone knew or seemed to know and encouraged me to do so. It didn't really seem to matter what I did, whether I came out as gay or straight. People had their own suppositions. That's an important misconception to clear up. Being transgender has absolutely nothing to do with sexuality. People get that confused all the time, and it can be an easy mistake to make. One can be straight, gay, bi, pansexual, demisexual, asexual, whatever, and still be transgender. Because, as I said, transgender has nothing to do with sexuality. Absolutely nothing. Throughout my transition, I've met trans women who are as straight as can be, and they love the dick more than anything. And I have met lesbian trans women who can't stand dick or men. Like, they are right up there with every stereotypical lesbian trope you can think of. Not saying it's wrong, just giving you a clear view of the spectrum. sexuality, much like gender, it is, of course, spectrum. Where do I live in the spectrum? Well, simply put, I mean, I could say I'm controversial, which would open up a whole new can of worms. And I do love opening cans of worms. I'm like Pandora's box opener. But um, I'm lesbian, pansexual leaning, or pansexual lesbian leaning, depending on your perception. So, I mean, I have the capacity to be attracted to men, but I rarely am. I prefer women. It's just a thing. The more intelligent you are, the more I tend to be interested. So there's a good deal of sapiosexuality going on there too. See, there's another new word. Sapiosexual, the more you know. And if you're female presenting, even better to me. I mean, as far as like attraction goes. But now we're getting off track once again. So it's surprise, surprise.
Choo choo. Come on, get back on the track.
Yes, no. I was born just outside of San Francisco, California. Bay Area babe. But due to being in a military family, you're encouraged not to get attracted to any one place in time. As a result, I grew up at least partially and during my formative years in a very redneck town of maybe 5,000 at most in eastern Washington state, about 45 miles from the Canadian border and about 15 to 20 miles from the Idaho border. And that population is based according to the 2010 census. The 2020 census information isn't publicly available yet, except through a FOIA, that's the Freedom of Information Act requests. And frankly, none of us have the time to wait for federal bureaucracy to complete their mountain of processing paperwork and get back to me with a please wait a further 8 to 12 weeks for information processing and mailing. Blech. There is always expedited processing, but I'm not made of money. Anyway, there were 2, maybe 3 people of color in my entire high school during my time there from 2001 to 2005. That should give you an idea of just how mayonnaise oriented my town was. For most of high school, I tried to blend in with jocks. I played football, basketball, ran track, did martial arts for 23 years. Well, that's another story. My last year, I was even a cheerleader. That goes back to the trying to come out as gay. But I wasn't really accepted, and it was never a standout player despite becoming a student of the strategic art of football. All this is to say, basically, I was trying to mask my unknown insecurity with a macho facade. This got worse after high school when I pretty much threw myself into working out continuously because I didn't know what else to do with my life. I worked odd jobs, retail, landscaping, snow removal, but otherwise, for about 3 years, I lived in the gym and the dojo. I became good, really good. This is when I received my personal trainer certification by chance, but I was never good enough and never had the ability to bulk up or get cut, as the athletes say. I invested a lot in bulk whey protein, enhanced vitamins, lift-off supplements, and meal replacers. Made everyone around me upset, angry, wanted to murder me. I also caused my gallbladder to quit functioning and nearly inadvertently, almost killed myself. Suffice it to say, I was a jackass, truly in the purest non-animalistic definition. Then, things start to change. On a whim, one night in early 2010, while drinking with some now former friends, I decided to go to college. The local university was accepting rolling applications for admission. I should say it's in Ohio. I was out here for vacation. What the hell, I figured, drunkenly. Then, as I mentioned in our last episode, I got in. I grew up fast. I cut the crap I had been taking, like all the vitamins and supplements. Started to eat real food again. I hunkered down, I kept my head down, focused on my studies, on my grades. And as a result, I was eventually asked to be Director of Policies and Procedures for the Student Government Association. Now, this isn't just a little thing for students to do in their spare time. This is an actual like full-time job that you get stipend for, and it's a very sought after scholarship position. The running a like executive board party that I was asked to be part of won the election, and I ended up serving that role of paid scholarship position, as I said, for the next year and a half, until I decided to transition, and that socially eliminated me from retaining my role, which passed to another senator who was elevated to a cabinet member. You see, even in 2013, transgender and gender dysphoria were not understood or comprehended or heeded with any level of concern. But even through all this, I looked for subtle ways to express my femininity, but it just came across social awkwardness at the worst of times, made me look like a pretentious asshole, and alienated me from would-be social circles at the best of times. I became a pariah steadily, but I tried not to let it bother me. By 2012, fast forwarding 2 years later, I started seeing a therapist at the University Student Health Clinic. By 2013, I took the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, regarded as a psychological benchmark and standard for gauging gender dysphoria and readiness or lack thereof for hormone therapy, among other various disorders and issues. Ironic, since gender dysphoria no longer appears in the DSM-5, that is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, Volume 5, which just came out about a year and a half ago. Now, this is a standard Bible psychologists go by for diagnosing the mentally ill. And sadly, many armchair psychologists use it for self-diagnosing as well, which inevitably leads to self-treating and in many cases self-harm. But I digress again. Ironically, the MMPI is also used to gauge hysteria, OCD, bipolar, hypochondriasis, psychopathic deviancy, depression, masculinity, femininity complex, paranoia, schizophrenia, hypomania, and social introversion. Specific to gender dysphoria, according to the MMPI, masculinity femininity scale measures interests and vocations and hobbies, aesthetic preferences, activity, passivity, and personal sensitivity. It measures in a general sense how rigidly a person conforms to various stereotypical masculine or feminine roles. I was approved for hormone therapy, but due to pressure from my parents, I ended up just attending therapy for the duration of 2013 and most of 2014. So really, my transition just consisted of going to therapy sessions. Now, that's not bad, but doesn't really get me anywhere. Finally, in November 2014, the middle of my fourth year of undergrad studies, I received my first dosage of spironolactone, 100 milligrams per day. Now, spironolactone, for you would-be pharmacists out there, is the prescribed testosterone blocker or T blocker of choice for most physicians in the West. I think in Europe, they actually use something a little bit different, not nearly as harmful. The side effect of spironolactone is tumor growth. So you gotta be very careful of that, which actually encouraged my decision to get my orchiectomy because I was starting to feel very, very questionably bad on spironolactone.
Well, not all medications are either.
Oh, yes. Spironolactone was coupled with a baby dose, if you will, of 25 milligrams of oral estradiol. Now, estradiol is the clinical term for synthetic estrogen. And 25 milligrams is literally the baby dose. It's what doctors or typical physicians really use to gauge your reactions to potential further dosage of hormone treatments. It's like dipping your toe in the water of the pool to see if you like the temperature and the depth before jumping the deep end. This was, let's see, it was coupled, so yeah, it was increased to 50 milligrams after 6 months, 75 milligrams after further 9 months, and 100 milligrams after further 8 months. At first, I was frustrated. Despite having done my research, I felt that I should have been able to see these changes after 3 months or so. I was clearly impatient. Though to be fair, I still can't see much difference between 2012 picture of me and a current one. After my marriage collapsed and, well, imploded in 2018, I finished grad school, admittedly half-heartedly, though I had a ton of issues going on, and moved back to Ohio from Virginia. Once I moved, I, with the help of some close friends and the remaining family I had, got clean of the drugs my then partner had hooked me on. I added progesterone to my transition medication regimen, which helped me to grow, and switched to injections for my estrogen, which is much better. They're far more potent. It's commonly known that the IM or intramuscular injections deliver a more potent cocktail of synthetic estrogen in the body system than the other two primary delivery systems, which are oral with pills and dermal or long-wear patches. Patches, honestly, in my opinion, are a joke. They're to give you the more like the psychological benefit of transition, rather than actually like facilitating it. But dysphoria can't be treated that way. It is always there, always eating at the back of my mind and clawing like some ethereal spirit. I had to constantly remind myself of my worth and shrug off depressive attacks. When I tell myself I'm a princess, I don't mean that literally. I mean, I have the mental issues of a conventional princess, and I have to straighten my proverbial crown when people try to knock me down. I should probably still be going to therapy, but I don't have that option right now, primarily due to a combination of COVID and ongoing finances. And honestly, it's easier just to go to the mall and buy a pair of gorgeous Jimmy Choos than go through the process of signing up for more therapy again. Besides which, most therapists are not friendly to sex workers or trans women, and I'm both. Just the opposite, really. Outing us is quite common.
Actually, give me a second there. We do have a therapist that will be coming on the show at some point in the near future who is very friendly towards these issues. So that is something that's fabulous to think about and will be helpful to yourself and as well as other people in the community. Just a little interruption there.
Thank you, Madame. That's wonderful.
You're welcome.
When I see how lackluster I am physically compared to my goals or even other women, I know I shouldn't compare myself to other women. I realize that, but I can't help it. I don't think a lot of us can. No. It's like subconscious there. I need to remind myself of what I bring to the table mentally through my prized intellect. And what I don't have physically, I can make up for intellectually. I mean, I specialize in sociology, military history, gender issues, and studies in antiquity, also known as classics, among many other specialties. Notably law. I'm working towards law school, and my specialty focuses on labor law, union rights, collective bargaining, and gender issues in the workplace. These are some of the things I need to remind myself of daily. I mean, and those are critical issues in this day and age. And I do this to divert myself from the perceived freak in the mirror. And that's not hyperbole. I honestly don't see myself as others see me in the mirror. I see a grotesque, hideous freak.
But you're not.
Cost is an important factor to consider in transition. And for me, it's no exception. To date, I've spent a gross total, and I've calculated this, of over 182,000 US dollars on transition-related costs, which include drugs, surgeries, therapies, incidentals, and more. If I did not have insurance, and in my case I refer to private insurance, I would likely be completely screwed to the wall, and not in the fun way. My final surgery, my vaginoplasty, will run in excess of 20,000 US dollars, unless I find a workaround at some point. The financial aspect takes a toll psychologically and makes you question transition at times. But yes, I just love it when trans folks tell me I'm just doing it for attention. In terms of outright dysphoria, I still have a phobia of talking on the phone. People laugh, but it's a fear of being misgendered constantly, and it has happened in the past. I do all I can to avoid having to talk on the phone, honestly. Everyone around me can vouch for this. Even making an illness or telling people I can't talk right now, no one seems to understand. It's psychologically debilitating. I do all I can to make sure anything that is supposed to be talked on the phone can be handled through email or text or chat or IM, whatever. and again, no one seems to understand it's psychologically debilitating at best and traumatizing at worst. Yeah, it's silly, I know what it is, but it's also very, very real.
It's not silly at all. How you feel, and that's incredibly valid, even all you've gone through.
I truly appreciate that, Madame. Speaking of fear, I might mention the fact that the commonly known transparent defense, whereby the accused states that he was scared and feared for his life when he realized the woman he was with was transgender, and a couple times, is still legally admissible in court of law as legitimate defense in the raw majority of states in the US. And several nations in Europe, though by UN convention that's illegal, so in the process of phasing that out. But the US is still exempt from that. In February 2021, according to research by the Southern Poverty Law Center and corroborating stats done by the LGBT Bar Association, the Center for Minority Civil Rights Activism, currently the only states with active legislation on the books that prevent the transparent defense from being used in a court case are New York, Connecticut, Maine, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Illinois, Colorado, Washington State, Nevada, California, and Hawaii. About 1/5 of US states. Meanwhile, trans women, ranging from white to Latina to other trans women of color, are killed at an average rate of 1 per day. And we are rarely reported. And that is often due to misgendering, misreporting, misgendering us in the news, any excuse you can think of, really. Our deaths are written off as just a minority of freaks in the wrong place at the wrong time, or trying to trick a man into bed. Yeah, because that's the thing, apparently. It may seem inane, but one needs to only look as far as J.K. Rowling or RuPaul to see that transphobic TERFs are alive and well, and have quite a large following and podium to voice their bigotry of or from. They may call themselves gender critical now, but they are TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminists. They call themselves gender critical because they believe TERFs is a slur, so trying to be above it all. These threats are hanging over my head and other trans women's heads every single day, like a sword of Damocles. Every day, constantly, it is life-threatening so much as walk outside my door. But I do it anyway, and damned if I ever complain, really. In fact, this is the most I've complained about the issues in months. This is why passing or passing privilege is so important, at least to me. I know there's currently a movement among the trans community to eliminate the importance of passing, and sure, that can help, but for me personally, passing helps. Passing gives me legitimacy as a woman. You know you're a woman and that's what matters, is what I hear from a lot of friends. You know what? That's nice, that's sweet even, but patronizing and condescending. It's not really what matters. What matters is how the public perceives you on a daily basis to prevent you, or at least minimize your risk of being murdered for being a freak. The primary factor which denotes the psychological condition of transness is a feminist subset of conflict theory and feminist sociology. I'm not going to get too much into this, but I want to touch on the surface level of this because it's such a huge issue that people don't even realize. Now, conflict theory, according to Karl Marx, is a theory that society is in perpetual conflict due to scarcity of resources, real or imagined. Now, transgender feminist theory by philosophy, as related to conflict theory, is a direct subsidiary conflict to conflict theory. I'm sorry, subsidiary philosophy conflict theory. As this is the opposing gender critical theory, which is largely baseless and rooted in a fear of trans women, while ignoring trans men and similar sociological spheres of influence. They focus almost entirely on trans women because we are supposedly taking over women's spaces. Trans men, who are, again, assigned female at birth persons who have transitioned to lead a male life, they don't even care about, or they seem to ignore entirely. Now, we won't even touch on the Jungian psychological effect, mostly because Madame would kill me for using excessive time. I'm not going to touch any further than I already have on transgender identity, at least in this episode. If you will like, as I referred to earlier, I highly recommend checking out the amazing channels of ContraPoints and Lindsay Ellis, both of whom focus on controversial issues, including transgender identity, especially ContraPoints, just amazing channels and fantastic, entertaining, and informative content. Natalie, who is ContraPoints essentially. I mean, her video essays are like an hour to hour and a half long, so make sure you have some time. But if you really want to learn more, she's fantastic. Anyway, speaking of which, some great pop culture statistics to give you some clarity before I finish up here. Nearly 1/5 of all transgender characters presented in pop culture media for the last 20 years are sex workers, the most common popular professional presented. Number 2, transgender characters are featured and presented as killers or villains in 21% of all catalog media in the past 40 years. Sounds the Lambs, episodes of Law and Order. And Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho are just a few examples of many. And number 3, transphobic slurs, language, other dialogue were directly present in a whopping 61% of all cataloged media. In other words, it was common or otherwise accepted or even expected to casually insult or otherwise verbally attack the transgender community. For example, see the Michael Bay directed film Bad Boys, starring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and Bad Boys 2 and the third one. Bay himself is excessively problematic, and not just for trans issues. See Megan Fox and Transformers movie scene a little more. Anyway, yes, being outwardly desired by men, creepy as it is satisfying, validating, and vindicating to both my gender identity and my sexuality, despite being lesbian leaning. I may be transgender, but it is not who I am, or know how I identify. I could bore you all with in-depth epistemological analysis and physiological exegesis that identifies the spectrum of gender issues for the spectrum of sexuality, but that requires another 2 hours at least. I've had my sexuality and gender questioned or outright denied, as well as assumed or derided, especially from family members. To the point where I question my own existence on a daily basis, or better times weekly basis, at the best of times, really. What it comes down to is that I am a woman, period, plain and simple. Others are demisexual or asexual, or agender rather. When it comes to sexuality, which again is an entirely different spectrum, I am pansexual, lesbian leaning. But in terms of gender, I am a woman.
Thank you so much, Amy. You showed an incredible amount of bravery with this sharing. And your vulnerability, I hope, will help inspire others and shed light on what so many deal with daily and never share with others out of fear and lack of consideration for the people around them. I can't pretend to understand what you've gone through with your journey, as it's yours alone, obviously. And while others have gone through a similar journey or are venturing on a path, it's always better to have friends, support, allies, and others to turn to, as that can be a potentially dangerous, alienating, and difficult one. You might be asking us, but why are you covering this issue on a show about kink and BDSM? Well, body issues as a big blanket type of conversation will play into our dynamics. How we feel about ourselves reflects greatly in our activities, all of them, and sexuality, especially because when you don't like yourself or the way you look, your partner or partners will know. You'll carry yourself differently, act differently, and you might turn away from the passions that you love so much. And that can completely affect and damage your relationships because of that. Now, for other people, things like motherhood can be seen as a time of great joy and excitement. And this was brought on by a woman who, in one of the groups I'm in, had seen our previous show, really, really loved it, learned from it, and asked this question and wanted to cover this because she had a hatred of her body, not necessarily hatred, but a dislike of the form that she now had compared to what she had prior. Now, as this show was precipitated by that viewer's question and the view of her body she now has postnatal, my thoughts to this lovely woman were that your body grew another human being. You nurtured, protected, and helped create a whole new life. And your body is now a beautiful figure of motherhood, and nothing should ever take away from the wonder of that. You do yourself a disservice in comparing yourself and your body, both pre and postnatal. And this goes for anybody. Amy Jade saying the same thing. You say you look at yourself and you see yourself as the same as you were prior. That's not fair. You're doing yourself a great disservice because you are on a different path than you were prior to this. And you have to understand that you're not that person anymore. You are who you always were and who you were always meant to be. but your path has diverged from that previous person.
Thank you for
So
that.
of course, you're welcome. So you have to understand that it's not the same compilation of atoms it once was. And accepting yourself and seeing yourself as beautiful is important, and not following the ideal that advertisers, designers, and others may lay at your feet. And people will see things like videos from influencers and models and whatever else, and thinking, oh my gosh, why don't I look like that? Well, let me give you a little information here, kittens. Most of them don't look like that either. A lot of them are beautiful, absolutely stunning. They have beautiful figures. They may absolutely look science fiction perfect, but that's a lot of what it is sometimes too. It's science fiction. Thank you to technology. Some people can look absolutely stunning. And then when you see them in real life, they're like, what? I'll give you a small little example. One of my wonderful exes, who I'm still friends with, had a great crush on somebody that he found absolutely stunning, and had one of his men's books and stuff like that. And there were some ladies that were signing these books, and they're for, for the men to go and visit and stuff like that. I thought, yeah, go for it, have some fun, go get autographs, whatever, go meet them in person. And he came back, and boy, was he delusional. He was just like, what? He said, they look fantastic in the book. And he was in the book, and I'm like, yeah, they're gorgeous, of course. And he's just like, they didn't look anything like that. And it was funny because the girls were sitting there and just kind of felt really embarrassed. And some of them were like, yeah, we know. And as we've seen on many images and stuff like that online, some of the crazy stuff that you've seen. And then of course, even some of these wonderful celebrities have gone and said, okay, hold up a second. Here's the actual photograph compared to what they actually showed. And they've outed themselves. Not that they're saying they're not good looking, because they are. They're beautiful. I mean, everyone's beautiful in their way. I'm sorry, but if you're going to sit there and bag on yourself, do that in your own private time. I don't want to hear it. You all have your special things. So don't always follow what you see online, on influencers, TV, magazines, whatever the heck you watch, read, look at. Don't compare yourself to other people. You're going to drive yourself completely mental, and it is no benefit to your mental and physical and emotional health. Just be you. You're fantastic the way you are. And that goes for everybody, men, women. I mean, everybody. It's just, it's a thing that affects everybody. People say, oh, it's only a woman issue. Oh, garbage. I have seen so many men who were so upset by, they're either being too thin, too fat, having a disability. You know what? Everybody's affected by this kind of thing. Unless you're absolutely perfect and in your mind, you're like, hey, I'm fantastic. Good for you. Fantastic. Go on with your good old self. Okay, so accepting yourself and seeing yourself as beautiful is important, not following that ideal. But if you do that, that to me is the mother of all guilt trips. I mean, you're just being guilted into, you must look like this. Bull crap. Don't do that. I will come over there myself, smack you.
Please.
You don't want that. You stop that, Mrs. Just behave yourself. You're already greedy enough. You get me how much time out of my life? Just stop that. How many other people want to do this? Just, yeah.
Yes,
Don't. I will use this. You do not want me to use this. Actually, probably most of you do. But anyways, that's another story. Okay, but there's so many reasons that people have body issues. I suffer my own, and I'll keep this short, unlike some people who can tell a story forever. No, I joke, but honestly, I love giving Amy Jade a platform on which to speak, because a lot of what she says will resonate with people that may not have a platform to speak on, or actually be able to listen to certain things and hear it. And being able to hear it from somebody who's going through, has gone through, and is living through all of the issues that she had brought up, will understand and be appreciative, I hope, and maybe take some kind of solace in the fact that they're not alone, and you can be accepted, loved, and appreciated, even though sometimes you might look at yourself and say, but I don't know why. Well, guess what? Because we love you, because we think you're fantastic, because we see you for who you are, and because we're not judgmental assholes. So there's that. So I was once a very trim, athletic lady. I know I had an enviable figure. I walked, ran, danced, lifted. I did everything. I roller skated. I did skiing, everything you can possibly imagine. I did it because I loved it. I loved being physical. I loved doing everything. I was just, well, as you can obviously tell, and most people who know me know I'm completely energetic. I am like a ball of energy. Some of my best friends had nicknamed me Taz, which is an appropriate nickname. Like the Tasmanian devil. Yes, I am a ball of energy, and I'll keep going no matter if I'm tired or not. It's just the way it is. And I lived through a number of traumas in my life. I went through an awful lot. That's not something for here because it's not necessary. In my 30s, I started feeling something was really wrong with my body. Very, very wrong. I went to doctors, the ER, ad nauseum, to no avail, only to be told that I was imagining things. I lived in chronic pain for a very, very long time, and it made me volatile. I was angry. I often ate poorly for comfort or expediency because I didn't want to stand there making a good meal. And the taste buds just, they didn't want that kind of stuff. That was just, nope, done. My hormones were completely out of whack. And there's a big thing too. Your hormones can defy you and completely derail you without you realizing it. And there's a thing that for a lot of people, hormones are a bitch. They're a miserable, mean little, you're just, no, They're like that mean little thing that tells you, you're not good enough. And hormones are miserable. So I lived in that horrible pain for a long time. Partly due to that, I gained weight. So partly due to my bad eating habits. I totally take ownership on that, obviously, because I'm not going to sit there going, oh, I don't know where all the weight came from. Well, I sure as shit do. Of course I do. I mean, part of it was my own stupidity, but that was because I was in pain, and I just was in one of those places where I didn't care. I didn't, just leave me alone. And I was like that. I was just angry. I was spiky Barbie. You didn't want to be near me. I was mean, angry, depressed. I was sometimes vicious, obviously, because I said hormones are a bitch. They're just mean to you. Right? But because of that, I didn't exercise like I once did, like I once did, due to pain and discomfort. And in some ways I ignored it, which is completely unlike me. I mean, I love going out and walking. I love running. I love hiking. I love doing all these things where I'm out and doing stuff, but I just didn't want to. I wanted to sit in a ball and be miserable and just kind of go, yeah, no. So my activity levels dropped, and it was a dumb thing to do, but when you feel horrible inside and outside, you tend to give up. And I did. I was suicidal, depressed. I was anxious. The years continued, and I forgot what it felt like to be good, feeling good inside, and things just became worse. I mean, it just snowballed. I honestly hated looking at myself. I hated myself. I hated my body. Oh no, it was just terrible. I hated my body. I hated myself for letting it happen, and I was angry. It took more than a decade in so many doctor's appointments, probes, ER visits, MRIs, so many tests, to the point where I just don't care anymore. Just do what you got to do. I don't care. Just do it. And I kept being told, oh, you're fine. Nothing's wrong with you. You're just a hypochondriac. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for diagnosing me with something that you're not a specialist in, but okay. Because you don't know what it feels like to be me, but you know apparently that I'm a hypochondriac and making all this stuff up. And I hated everything. I hated myself. I did not like my body. I looked at myself, and I wanted to cover myself up in a blanket and not be seen. I could not stand the way I looked. And I kept seeing the ideal of what I once looked like, being nice figure and being pretty and wearing these gorgeous clothes and being able to, just swan around looking great, and seeing myself as what I thought in my head was a potato and with legs, so yeah, right. That's how that looked. And I wondered after a while if I was a hypochondriac. When various attempts at trying to lose weight and get back to health failed, I knew something was absolutely wrong and that they were missing it. Because why, if you're trying very hard to lose weight, you can lose a tiny bit, but then you keep stopping and stopping. There's something seriously wrong with your body. My hormones were completely battling everything I was. And there was a stall out. An out and out stall. I mean, with everything I did, I should have gotten right down to no, there was no way. So eventually, after nearly launching a specialist to the wall, after many misdiagnoses and his smug attempts to say, oh, you're just getting older, this is natural, I was friggin' livid. I nearly picked this bugger up by his coat and rammed him through a wall. I was that angry, and I growled at him. And I said, you better bloody well fix me, or you'll wish you'd gone to school for something else, because I was friggin' done. It's like, if you're a specialist and you're supposed to be specializing in this and you have no clue what the hell's wrong with me, and I can tell you there's something wrong with me and you can't tell me what's wrong with me, after so many tests, you need to fix this and figure it out. I don't care what you do. You can't just tell me, oh, you're getting old. Sorry, that does not work with me, because it wouldn't have gone on like this.
No.
So he said, all right, I'll send you over one more test. But I swear, he had that smug look on his face and said, it'll come back with nothing. They always do. It's like maybe 2%. Come back with something on their test and you'll have nothing. It'll be nothing. You're just getting older. And I'm like, yes, I know I'm getting older, but this is not typical for me. There's something wrong, and I know. So guess what? He was wrong. They all were. Every single last one of them was wrong. I had 2 twin-sized tumors growing inside me for a long time. Intramuscular. Yeah, so they were in the walls. Tumors. They told me the dimensions. I mapped them out on paper to see how big they were in comparison to the space they were in. And they were bigger than the space they were in. So telling me that I was completely wrong and I was a hypochondriac when they gave me this information really pissed me off even more. So I had over a decade of being sick and nobody telling me how to fix things. And me thinking I was just a horrible, ugly potato that had a horrible body and that my body had failed me. I had repeated cysts that made me incredibly sick. Add that my blood pressure was killing me, literally killing me. I had been, after going to the doctors and the ERs and stuff like that, and them taking my blood pressure and telling me, oh, it's rather high. Not one of them had said, hey, maybe we need to do something about this. Over a decade. This is why you need to start being your own advocate, by the way, when it comes to your health, and fight these people sometimes, because if you know you don't feel good, stick by that. If you're not imagining it and it's not you on a bid for attention, which most people don't, because you know your body, you know how it feels. If it doesn't feel right, get it looked at. And if people don't give you the right answer, you can go to other doctors and get the right answer, because I just told you how many doctors I'd gone through, and not one of them in their minds after all this training sat there going, hey, maybe there's something actually wrong. And look at these other things that are going on. One doctor that I finally came to said, you're right. You need to have those things removed. Because I was told, by the way, by another doctor that, oh no, eventually maybe these tumors will shrink and they'll go away. And I'm like, apparently in all this time they haven't, and they're still there now, but you want me to live through this for longer. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. That's a hell no. So I came to another doctor and he said, yes, you need to have them removed. I'll give you other options, but your idea is the correct one. Another doctor, they said he had to send me to, because he knew there was something else. That was another underlying bunch of issues besides this. And he said, go to this doctor and see what happens. This doctor said, by the way, this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is wrong. And you need to have these addressed now, or you will be dead in a few months. I was mind blown. And yeah, you might be sitting there going, well, why are you talking about this as body issues? Well, because these were all my body issues. And I saw my body is damaged and bad and flawed. And you know what? The thing was that my body had something wrong inside of it. So, I mean, it's not perfect now either, but it's getting better. Numerous other issues were compounded due to negligence and ineptitude. Not mine. I mean, yeah, I did some stupid stuff, but other issues that I have now were because nothing else was diagnosed at the time it should have been. So this is what really angers me. I hated my body still, maybe even more so, because it caused me this pain and it was doing this to me. And you know, you're just kind of sitting there going, you know what, I hate myself even more. You look in the mirror going, I hate you. I would look in the mirror for like maybe 5 seconds to do my teeth, maybe put on some makeup, but I didn't really care, because who was I impressing? I didn't care. I didn't like myself. Why should anybody else? So after surgery, which I went to in 2017, dying on the table and then coming back, I started to see myself differently. I realized that in spite of all the pain, the lost years, the weight, other issues that had transpired because of all this, my body still kept functioning in spite of all this and carried me through everything I'd done. And that and my sheer stubbornness. As anyone knows, I'm a very stubborn person. I'll probably be dead and still be coming back to do something else, because I just can't, you know, yeah, apparently I'm that stubborn. So I'm still on my journey to lose more weight. I have a ways to go, and that's something I honestly know, and it didn't come on overnight, so it's not going to disappear overnight, as my dear Amy Jade tells me, even though, you know, she deserves like lots of spankings for not letting me think it's sooner, because, you know, stubborn. But I came to appreciate that in spite of it not being my ideal, that I'm not my ideal right now, my body is an impressive thing that was capable of doing some amazing things. So I started thinking differently. So my perception changed, that in spite of all the things that I've gone through and all the problems, that my body is an incredible machine, and it still functioned in spite of all the stuff that was going on. So many may believe that only women suffer this, men do it too, whether it be to societal pressure, family expectations, health issues that can go from physical, emotional, mental. There are so many reasons body issues can be mildly annoying to even crippling. For some, society often expects us to be perfect and fit, mocking those that may suffer from obesity, or even over thinness or physical ailments, and they may not be perceived as perfect. And no one ever has the right to belittle or mock you for whatever physical form your spirit is surrounded by. So we can go on for hours about this topic, but I don't want to take up much more of your time. And if this topic is of interest, perhaps we can revisit it further at another time to add more to it and compound more questions and stuff that people might have. Let me remind you, you're beautiful. Your body is a beautiful thing. It carries you around. It breathes, it creates life, it lifts and carries, it swims or runs, it houses incredible intellect. It houses great creativity, imagination, artistry, and more. That body of yours also has the incredible ability to give love, passion, emotion, advice, warmth, and compassion. Those come from within that physical form that you might look at with a weary eye and say, but, and I say it is remarkable. So you might say, well, it's just me inside that's saying these things. Yeah, but look at the outside. Without that outside, these things would not be happening. So the whole form, your body that you might be mocked for, or that you may not see as wonderful, is a phenomenal thing, and you're in it. And that's the important thing, is that you right there are in that form, in that body. Remind yourself that you are an incredible person. So when you're feeling low and you look at yourself in that dismissive way, do yourself a favor. Make a list of the things you love about yourself, and nothing is arbitrary. It could be your eyes, your hair, your legs, your ass, your dimples, the way you draw, sing, write, move, anything like that. And you might say, wait, what? Why those last two? Well, you need that glorious body of yours to do all those things. Without that, you're not going to be able to do that, honey. I'm sorry, but it's true. And add to that, do make a list of your achievements too. You could say something like having children, bench pressing an elephant, scuba diving, running, writing a story, baking for a family. No achievement is too small, because we're all differently abled, but all of it matters. No matter what you do, even if just getting out of bed is all you can do, you got out of bed. Even if, you know, the simple act of breathing, you're sitting there going, well, it still matters. All of it matters, because there's a reason for it. Take a look at that list and realize you're pretty freaking amazing. Keep it handy for those days that you look at yourself and think, but why? And look at that list and realize you've done a hell of a lot with your lives. You may not think it's much, but it may be a lot more than other people are able to or have done. And never compare yourself to others. Just, I mean, I say that last bit that, you know, may not be much compared to what, but you can't compare your achievements to somebody else's. Everybody has different abilities, different finances, different abilities to do things, that you may be held back from doing certain things until later, or that may be all you're able to do. And you know what? That's impressive too. Anything that you do is important. So if you, like us, suffer from things like anxiety, depression, you might seek outside help. Mentors are great people to talk to, people that might have gone through similar things. I was in children's aid, so I was a foster child for a long time. It was funny that Amy Jade brought up, and I don't mean funny, haha, but interesting that she brought up that people in the trans community in media and other things had been perceived as criminal element or negative things and perceived as evil. Well, guess what? People like myself and in foster care had also, if you watch it's SVU, sorry, SVU, like Special Victims Unit and lots of other TV shows. And I've been watching them over again. I'm thinking, my goodness, the stuff I'm watching is just ridiculous. The things that people write in scripts, I'm thinking, oh yeah, well, they were children's aid, or oh yeah, they're transgender. It's like, wow, I'm sorry, are you listening to yourselves? Because there are people that aren't like us that may not be great, that have done terrible things. There's people like us who have done amazing things with their lives. But again, I'm not here to negate anybody. I'm just trying to bring.
How dare they imply I'm a serial killer? I mean, I've only killed like 2 people.
Has to be at least 3.
Damn, I have to up my game.
Just saying, criminology. No, kidding, folks, kidding. All kidding aside, we're here to enlighten and engage and get people to think differently. So yeah, I may have said, there's this person here. You know what? You, that person watching this, the person that might be watching it beside you, you all have amazing feats that you do every single day of your life, and you may not realize it. Every single one of us has a purpose. Every single one of us has a reason to be here. And you can't negate yourself or compare yourself to other people. Just compare yourself to yourself. Make yourself tomorrow the better version of yourself and continue going forward that way. So you might see mental health professionals or others that might help you see yourself differently, or realize there may be someone else or something else that's affecting you that you haven't given voice to, and that might give you body issues, things from your past that you might be not considering, people outside of affectors. Practice self-love, please. Try to dismiss the negative thoughts and negative speak if you can. It's not easy. A lot of us go through it every single day. Amy Jade has talked about it herself, and other people do it as well. And we do these little negative, I'm so stupid. Don't do that. I got a friend of mine who tells me, don't call yourself stupid. You're not stupid. Okay, no, great. I mean, I am an environmental scientist and a computer programmer and a designer and stuff like that. So yeah, unlike Amy Jade, my pedigree is not as long, but it's a good chunk of importance. I mean, yeah, what I do is fairly important too, a little bit at least, just a teeny bit. But that's not that. And a Dom for over 30 years in the community. So I'm an educator as well, trying to help people navigate this life with the help of my lovely sub, because we want to help people understand. And again, this topic may be a heavy one, it may be a big one, and people might be saying, why does it matter? Well, it matters overall, but it is a big one for the community, because so many of us in the community have body issues. And thankfully, a lot of people have more body and self-image love, but they still will have problems in the community. And then their dynamic, the ability to find others like themselves, their dom, their subs, whatever, they may not feel good enough. And I don't think anybody should ever feel like that, because you deserve better than that. So try to dismiss those negative speaking, the negative talk and stuff like that. If not, speak to others that can help you navigate through those tough waters. It's not easy. It's going to take you time, but you can over time and improve your body image in the way that you see yourself. Jade, I think you had something.
I was just going to add a closing remark.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madame. If all else fails and you're hanging by a thread, help is always available. I know many countries have this, but at least here in the US, where I am, if you're feeling that close to the end, please call National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. The number will be down below after the video. If you prefer, text, chat, and email is also available by the same lifeline. They do like tons of services. Canada and Europe have one. We'll add those as well. Remember, you matter, you are loved, and this world needs you. As I remind Madame on a daily basis, continuously.
So thank you for tuning in. If you like us, hit like, subscribe, and share. Share, because what we have to say is pretty important in and out of the community. And we want lots of people to be here. And guess what? If we get more than 100 viewers, like not 100 viewers, but 100 subscribers, I might throw in a nice little gift to somebody somebody's name I'll draw out of a hat if they put their names in. We're making a regular episode, usually every 7 to 10 days. So be sure to hit that bell button down below. Take care. Thanks for coming and hope to see you next week. Bye.